On August 6, 1945, a blinding flash consumed an entire city in less than 1 second. In that flash stood a single man, burned, deafened, dying. He survived. 3 days later, he walked straight into the second atomic blast.
It was bent down. This indicates that sudden pressure came practically from overhead.
His name was Tsutomu Yamaguchi, a draftsman, a father, a man with no interest in war or history. Yet he would become the only confirmed human to endure 2 nuclear detonations and live. Yamaguchi had been in Hiroshima for 3 months on a business trip. He worked for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. August 6th was supposed to be his final day. He packed his bags. He was walking toward the docks. The sky was clear. He looked up. At 8:15 a.m., a USB-29 dropped a device the world had never seen. Little boy. The light hit him before the sound. His body lifted off the ground. His eardrums burst. His skin peeled from his arms like wet paper. Everything faded white. When consciousness returned, he crawled out of a burning trench. The city around him was gone. People wandered without faces. Children cried without voices. He tied scraps of cloth around his wounds and walked. He walked for miles through a landscape that no longer resembled Earth. Every structure burning, every person injured. He reached a train station, somehow still functioning, packed with survivors escaping the city. He boarded a train. It carried hundreds of burned, bleeding survivors across Japan. After an entire day of pain and shock, he arrived home in Nagasaki. His family didn't recognize him at first. He told them one sentence: Hiroshima was wiped out. But no one, not even he, understood what that meant. The next morning, despite his injuries, he went to work. He told his supervisor that a single bomb had destroyed an entire city. His supervisor laughed. Impossible. One bomb cannot do that. Yamaguchi opened his mouth to respond. He never finished the sentence. At 11:02 a.m. on August 9th, the second bomb, Fat Man, detonated above Nagasaki. Another flash. Another shockwave. The office windows exploded inward. Yamaguchi was thrown to the floor. This time, he was shielded by the building's steel frame. The blast scorched him again, but he survived twice. He staggered into the street. The same sights as Hiroshima. Bodies, fires, silence. His home was gone, but his wife and infant son had left the house minutes before the explosion. If they had stayed inside, they would have died where they stood. But surviving 2 atomic blasts wasn't the end of Yamaguchi's story. It was the beginning of something far quieter and far more difficult to endure. His body didn't simply recover. Radiation continued eating at him long after the fireball faded. His immune system collapsed, then rebuilt itself in broken ways. Fevers arrived without warning. His skin peeled for months. Every infection lasted longer than it should. His doctors understood the truth. A man exposed once had a chance. A man exposed twice had none. Yet somehow, he kept moving. But the physical damage wasn't the worst part. What followed him for the rest of his life were the echoes. Memories that didn't fade. Sounds that returned out of nowhere. Light that felt too bright. Silence that felt too loud. He carried the knowledge of what humanity could do when it pushed destruction to its absolute limit. He had seen it twice, once as a victim, and once as a witness who understood exactly what was coming. As Japan rebuilt itself, Yamaguchi tried to rebuild himself too, but radiation doesn't stay in the past. It lives in the blood. It follows you home. It sits with you at night. And eventually he realized something. He was one of the only people alive who could explain what these weapons truly did, not in theory, not in politics, but in flesh, in nerves, in memory. He began speaking out, not because he wanted to, but because silence felt worse. He dedicated his later years to telling the world what nuclear fire really means. Not the explosion, not the mushroom cloud, but the life that comes afterward. The decades of sickness, trauma, and quiet suffering that never make the history books. When he died in 2010, he didn't leave behind monuments or grand memorials. He left behind something harder, a reminder that the line between survival and annihilation is razor thin, and that sometimes the human body keeps going, even when every law of biology says it shouldn't. A man who should not have lived, who kept walking anyway. Doctors were overwhelmed. Yamaguchi's burns infected. Radiation sickness set in, vomiting, fever, hair loss. His chance of survival should have been zero, but his body fought through it. He recovered, slowly, painfully. For decades, he lived quietly. He became a teacher. He raised his children. He rarely spoke about the bombs. Japan didn't want victims telling the world what nuclear weapons truly did. In 2009, the Japanese government finally recognized him as the only confirmed survivor of both atomic bombings. A man struck twice by two of the most destructive forces humans ever created. Yamaguchi's life is more than a historical anomaly. It is a reminder that human survival is not rational. It is not predictable. It is the collision of chance, biology, and will. He saw the worst thing humans have ever done to each other, twice, and still chose to live a quiet, peaceful life. He once said, "The world should understand the cruelty of nuclear weapons." Maybe humanity exists today because people like him chose to speak. He was the luckiest unlucky man in history, a witness to human destruction, and a symbol of human endurance. His name was Tsutomu Yamaguchi, and he survived the impossible twice.